Hey Falcon fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Atlanta Falcons today. Mailbag video coming up tomorrow, and so get your questions in right now. If you have not got a question answered on any of our mailbag videos the past couple of months, now's your chance. Go down below, use the hashtag Falcons, ask any Falcon-related question you possibly could want. It's the bye week, so make them fun, and then we'll discuss them and throw them up on the screen tomorrow if you're a subscriber, and if it is a good question. Hashtag Falcons, comment down below, get to it right now. Today's Falcon video is brought to you guys by our friends at Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, use our promo code FALCONS to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping. All right, it is the bye week, which means not a lot of news and rumors are happening right now, but we look ahead to the NFL trade deadline, and I want to come on here and give you guys a video and talk about some Falcon trade deadline candidates. Now, as you're going to see, as we go through the list of 10 players, I have to give you guys full disclosure. There are not a lot of players the Falcons can actually trade for. Why? Because they don't have a lot of money to actually go ahead and take on big contracts. So we're going to talk about some of the dream candidates here in a second who I wish they could trade for. And you might see some blogs, writers say maybe the Falcons could trade for X player. But just know the Falcons really don't have a lot of money. And so we have to kind of really look at who they could realistically trade for here on the video. I'm not going to give you some crazy name to start to say they're going to definitely trade for this guy. I'm going to give you some options that would fill holes at positions of need that could work with the current salary cap that the Falcons are facing here in 2021. Now, as I mentioned, there are some names out there that would love to be in a Falcon uniform and who probably will be traded at the NFL trade deadline. You'll see them up on your screen right now. I call these dream candidates that won't happen. And so there's no chance the Falcons are going to be able to go ahead and add a Xavien Howard unless you have some sort of, wizardry, voodoo, cap manipulation that the Falcons are somehow able to do, aka it's unlikely to happen. So while I'd like to talk about Xavien Howard and how the Falcons need cornerback help and are banged up at cornerback, the odds of trading for Howard, very unlikely. Same go for, receivers like an Allen Robinson, who's in the final year of his deal. Going to re-sign him to a massive contract after this year. Not sure it's necessarily a mega need at wide receiver, although we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I don't see Robinson being a possibility, even though he probably will be traded at the NFL trade deadline. Same goes for a guy like Brandon Cooks, and also goes for a name like Odell Beckham Jr. I would love OBJ. I think OBJ and Calvin Ridley would be fantastic for the offense, but the Falcons have shown that they aren't necessarily sold on needing a Julio Jones caliber player. They let go of Julio Jones or traded him this offseason, and so all these names might be traded or will at least be thrown around as trade candidates at the trade deadline, but the fact that the Falcons don't have money means the odds of these four being actually moved to Atlanta are very unlikely. And so I want to start the video kind of being, full disclosure. I could talk about these names, but the names aren't likely to happen. And so these are the dream guys, and now we'll get into the ones that actually make sense in terms of a money standpoint. Now, let me just start with this, though. Pin comment, ad break down below. Scroll down and answer this question. Name a dream player. Like, if you could get any player who's being mentioned right now at the trade deadline on the Atlanta Falcons, who would it be? I would love to trade for Xavien Howard. I think the Falcons desperately need cornerback help. It's one of their weakest spots in the entire NFL, or the entire roster. I would love to go ahead and trade for Howard, but obviously not going to happen. So give me your dream pick right now down below in the pinned comment section. All right, let's jump into the 5 candidates that could make sense based on the contract situation and the position of need, starting with Derek Barnett, the defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Barnett right now is making about $10 million a year, and so that would be hard to go ahead and actually assume in terms of trading for the contract. However, he is entering the final year of his deal, and he's not been very productive over almost the entire course of his career, and recently he's not been very productive for Philadelphia at all. And so you could see a scenario where the Eagles get rid of Barnett to get rid of the $10 million salary situation, and then the Falcons trade for him, or another team trades for him, and then immediately re-signs him to a long-term deal and brings that $10 million a year hit down a little bit, which would make a lot of sense for the Atlanta Falcons. The jury's still out on if Barnett is actually good or not. He was the all-time leading sack leader at his alma mater at Tennessee, came into Philadelphia, had a great rookie season in 2017, and since then has never really progressed past what he did his rookie season. So whether he's good or bad is kind of still up in the air. I think for sure he needs a change of scenery, and maybe the Falcons could be a spot that would make a lot of sense. Again, you'd have to restructure his deal once you traded for him, and I think Barnett would be open to it because it's not like he's going to enter free agency next year and get some sort of mega contract. I think what he's able to restructure with a team like Atlanta would be similar to what he would get in free agency, and so this to me make a lot of sense to fill or at least add to a position of need that is the pass rusher position. Not a lot of pass rushers to trade for that are at least cheap, so Barnett's the one name on this list I think that makes sense from a pass rushing perspective. We'll get into number 2 here in just one second. First, though, quick shout out to our friends at Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, use the promo code FALCONS to get 20% 20% off your order plus free shipping on all of their great products, including the Lawnmower 4.0, which is their latest male grooming tool that has all of the latest gadgets you possibly could want, including the different hair trimmer sizes, something that didn't have in the 3.0, which I really missed from having the 3.0. They now have it on the Lawnmower 4.0. Plus, tons of other great products, the perfect package. You go and pick up the Lawnmower 4.0 and a bunch of other great stuff in one complete package. Either way, whatever you get, it's right now on a discount with our promo code Falcons at chatsports.com. At manscaped.com using that promo code Falcons. Link will be down below me. You can just click that, take you right there in the description box. All right, next trade target is a wide receiver. I mentioned earlier that I think the Falcons need an Odell Beckham Jr., although they would probably like it, but I think they do need some help at wide receiver. And whether you agree with me or not, the injuries that have been there, especially with Russell Gage and just the downplay of Marlon Mack not being that good, means that a guy like James Washington to me would make a ton of sense. And he's the Steeler wide receiver who wanted to trade before the NFL season. The Steelers did not give it to him, and since then he's still done virtually nothing. 13 targets, 9 catches, 99 yards. I think the Steelers are going to try to keep him due to the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster is now injured. However, I do think he is a name on the list here that would make sense in order to give just a little bit of help to Calvin Ridley, who's been struggling a little bit from a number one wide receiver perspective, as they don't truly have a number 2 behind him, as I see Russell Gage, at least this year, being injured, as more of a number 3. Another receiver comes up at number 3 on my list here of trade potential targets. We'll get to that in a second. First, though, we're doing a little, let's just call it friendly competition against the Broncos Breakdown, another channel we have here at Chat Sports. As we're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers here on Atlanta Falcons today. As it currently stands, we are losing to the Broncos by 3,631 here versus their 4,281 subscribers there. We are trying to beat out the host Matthew Peterson, who hosted the Bronco Breakdown over on our other page at Chat Sports. So if you want us to win, you want to help us out with this friendly competition, and you like the Falcons, go down below and hit that red subscribe button to help us go ahead and jack those numbers up a little bit. We're trying to get to 5K first. Help us by going down below and hitting the button right now. Okay, I'll mention another wide receiver here, and then we'll move on to some other positions as we go through our list. This is number 3. N'Keal Harry is a very similar wide receiver to James Washington in terms of the current situation. N'Keal Harry wants to trade as well, hasn't done much production-wise, but the Patriots have refused, as up to this point, to actually trade him. Now, there is still some open debate as to whether or not the Falcons need another wide receiver. If Gage comes back in his 2020 Gage, then you probably don't. But I don't know if that's necessarily a guarantee. I don't know if Russell Gage is guaranteed to go ahead and be a number 2 wide receiver the rest of his career. And plus, even if he is, a third wide receiver not named Olamide Zaccheaus, I think would be a big-time upgrade over Olamide Zaccheaus, which is why I went ahead and threw on Washington and Harry. They're both on very cheap rookie contracts, and so you could assume that they could trade for them for a very late-round draft pick, a 6th or a 7th-round draft pick, take on their contract, and have no real issue with picks or with the cap as well. Do you guys think the Falcons need another wide receiver? Do you agree that Washington or Harry would make a lot of sense for Atlanta? If you do, type Y down below for yes. If you do not, go down below and type N. Okay, let's get into another trade candidate that I think is kind of unlikely. The money works because that's why he's not on my dream list, but I don't know if the Falcons are actually going to do it. It's Marlon Mack, the running back for the Colts. Now, the Colts are going to trade Marlon Mack. That's all but basically guaranteed based on reporting that's taken place over the past couple of days. The Chiefs have already been interested in one Marlon Mack, but I don't know if the Falcons are ready to invest another, I should say, draft pick, because you had to trade away a draft pick for a running back when they already have Mike Davis and the emergent Cordero Patterson. Now, Mack in 2019 was one of the best running backs in the National Football League, only played in like 14 games, yet he had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. Since then, he got injured and now has lost a lot of carries to Jonathan Taylor in the Colts backfield, so I think he's still really good. I would love him in Atlanta, but I don't know if the Falcons necessarily need him, even though right now Mike Davis has not necessarily done what we expected Mike Davis to do when he was signed here to be the number 1 running back. Thankfully, Cordero Patterson is there. He's been really, really good. So while I don't think Marlon Mack would make a ton of sense, I also wouldn't hate the move, which is why he goes ahead and makes our list here at number 4. Finally, as we get into our 5th trade target, it's another one that I would love to get, but the odds of it happening to me are a little bit slim, and that is Clelin Ferrell, the former 1st-round draft pick of the former Raiders head coach in John Gruden, but he, of course, is no longer there. I'm sure you saw everything that went on with that. But Ferrell is someone who is entering potentially the final year of his deal next season, of his rookie contract, and so trading him away makes a lot of sense. And NBC Sports had a write-up on this that I think is a lot easier than me explaining it, because they basically explain it perfectly on what's going on with Ferrell in Las Vegas. Quote, Ferrell was a healthy scratch week 1 and played less than 25% of the Raiders' defensive snaps in week 2 and 3. He's clearly out of the rotation in Las Vegas. As 2019 4th-rounder Max Crosby has emerged as a budding pass rushing star. Ferrell just had 6.5 sacks in 28 career games, but someone would likely to take a chance buying low on the 24-year-old. The Raiders need to ship Ferrell out of town before his 5th-year option deadline next offseason. Makes him a perfect candidate to be dealt 2021 trade deadline to a pass rush needy team. Very similar to Derek Barnett, right? Drafted high, underproduced, still cheap, and maybe a fresh face and a fresh place would make a lot of sense for Ferrell. I think the Falcons are going to have to go ahead and draft somebody next offseason. I think the first round is probably where you want to spend your first round draft pick on a defensive end, but adding some additional help, some additional cushion to the depth, I think would be a good thing for the Falcons if they want to make some moves at the trade deadline. Again, the odds of the Falcons making any sort of significant move at the deadline is very, very slim. I tried to give you 5 names that would make the most sense. These are the 5: BARNETT, Washington, Harry, Mack, and Ferrell. Will they actually do it? I don't know. Stay tuned as we see the next couple of weeks here. We get closer to the deadline. We'll cover it here if they do on the Atlanta Falcons Today channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed, right? Make sure you go and help us get to 5K subs and are subscribed because we will have an up-to-date coverage if anything were to happen with our Falcons. All right, ultimate for today on our Atlanta Falcons Today trade video. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.